Hey, good morning and welcome to the Bismarck-Mandan Metropolitan Planning Organization TAC meeting. It is Monday, November 17th, and we will call the meeting to order, beginning with roll call. Tracy?
Daniel Narin. Dan Shriak.
Here. I'm
Deidre-
here too, by the way. I just didn't get to mute in time.
Okay. Deidre Hughes.
Here.
Gabe Shell.
Here.
Loretta Marshak.
Here.
Riley McAdoo-Raisler.
Here.
John Sackey. Logan Bisey.
Here.
Mitch Flanagan.
Here.
Natalie Pierce. Will Hutchings.
Here.
And Chair Ripple.
Here. Thank you, Tracy. With that, we will also call for anybody who is participating online remotely who would like to speak up and know their presence known so that we can get your name recorded in the minutes.
Grant Doctor.
Thanks, Grant. Is there anybody else?
This is Sherijat Hassan from Upper Great Plains Transportation Institute.
Thank you, Sherry Jed.
Good morning, Kristen Sperry, Federal Highway Administration.
Thanks, Kristen. Is there anyone else online who would like their presence to be recorded as attendees? Okay. If not, we will move on to item number 1, which is public comment. We would be receiving public comment on items on the current agenda or the prior TAC agenda, excluding public hearing items. Is there any such public comment? If so, please step forward. If there is anybody online, feel free to speak up. Calling for a second time for public comment. And calling a third time for public comment. Seeing and hearing none, public comment period is closed. We'll move on to item number 2, which is the minutes from the October 20th TAC meeting. They were included in the agenda packet. Are there any comments or revisions to the minutes? If not, we would be looking for a motion of approval.
This is Gabe. I'd move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Deidre, second.
We have a second. And roll call, please.
Daniel Narin.
Yes.
Dan Shriak.
Yes.
Deidre Hughes.
Yes.
Gabe Shell.
Yes.
Loretta Marshak.
Yes.
Riley McAdoo-Raisler.
Yes.
Logan Bisey.
Yes.
Mitch Flanagan.
Yes.
Will Hutchings.
Yes.
And Chair Ripple.
Yes, and the minutes are approved. Item number 3 on the agenda is the monitoring report update. We have Jeremy Williams with HDR online with us to provide that this morning. Jeremy?
All right. Good morning, and thank you, Chair Ripple. Yes, Jeremy Williams with HDR, and I was project manager on the monitoring report update, and I just wanted to present a few slides today to kind of give an overview of the project and some of the remaining steps. So if I can remember how Zoom works, I'm normally a Teams user, so 1 second I will share my screen. There we are. This up and then, oh goodness. Excuse me for 1 second. All right. And then are you able to see the slideshow?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Perfect. All righty. So yeah, agenda for the day, just kind of talk through the project itself with a brief project background, quick discussion of the review and update of the performance measures related to the report, a quick overview of data collection and analysis before getting into the monitoring report update itself, and then just a few final next steps. So moving into the project background, I'm sure the monitoring report is a document most of you are familiar with. So it provides that comprehensive documentation of the existing transportation conditions and trends and things like that that are influencing transportation in the region, and provides that resource for the MPO staff, consultants, elected officials, and public to kind of go through and kind of get a glimpse or a snapshot of the existing transportation conditions. And with that, the geographic scope covers the entire MPO jurisdiction. And so finally, the project goals related were essentially to update the monitoring report with the most current data available, identify other existing trends and technologies that are impacting transportation, and really develop a more graphically driven document, something that relies a little bit less on text, is a little less text heavy, and kind of becomes a little more streamlined and a little bit more graphically driven. And so again, just a quick recap of the current monitoring report. It's broken out into 4 chapters that cover the people, housing, employment, and travel. It was published in 2016, with chapter 1 being last updated in 2019. So it's been a few years, and there have been some big changes in terms of transportation and other trends that have impacted transportation since 2019. So an overall view of the process was, again, to update the existing report based on more current data, streamline that document, but also work to provide a better linkage between existing MPO studies and projects that are going on, aligned with current planning initiatives at the federal level, the state level, and also reflect local priorities, and also provide the data and the document itself in a format that's going to be feasible for MPO staff to conduct future in-house updates. So a quick look at the timeline. The project started back around March, and the final documentation was delivered about a week or 2 ago, and then we just have one final task with the project, and that is an in-house training that will be happening on December 2nd. So that's upcoming. So a big part of the project was, again, to review and update those performance measures with that goal of aligning it with the latest federal, state, local initiatives and priorities. And so to that end, we held a performance measures workshop back in May of 2025 with different representatives of the jurisdictions within the MPO area, and that really helped to set the direction for incorporating all those federal, state, local priorities and performance measures, things like that. And so some of the key outcomes of that that were integrated into the monitoring report were focused more on the localized data, kind of a more general discussion of federal performance measures, and providing in-text web links to different resources. So the reader would be able to access those resources and kind of view them on their own, get into things they might have more interest in. And finally, just to refine the topics that are addressed in the monitoring report update. So in terms of the data collection and analysis, use pretty accessible data sources, pretty common data sources, so that United States Census and the ACS Community Survey data sets, some of the longitudinal employer household dynamics, the LEHD data set, which provides some really interesting and robust information or data related to commuting. And then some other local sources of data, including building permits, school enrollments, jurisdictional budgets, and then finally some of the data available from the North Dakota Department of Transportation. Another facet of the data collection and analysis was an investigation of special data sources. So looking at things like Replica, HQ, Streetlight, and Urban SDK, and just kind of, rather than integrate those into the report itself, provide kind of a basic understanding to MPO staff about what these provide and how they could potentially be integrated into the monitoring report in the future. And so the key outcomes of the data collection and analysis side of things was to develop those methodologies to analyze the data and then document those for that upcoming in-house training. So moving into the monitoring report, it was broken out into 4 chapters with just a really brief introduction about what it is, but then moved into section 1, which consolidated the people in the housing, which in the current monitoring report are 2 separate. So we, in talking with Stephen, decided it'd be best to just consolidate those into one chapter, since those are pretty related, and then still retain that employment and then the travel as separate sections. So a quick overview of the people and housing, basically get into all those populations and the housing characteristics and kind of a description of how those all integrate with transportation and kind of help drive transportation and the transportation trends and things like that. And then again, as I mentioned, consolidated those standalone topics into one for the purpose of a little bit more succinct and streamlined report. Section 2, employment, dealt with all things employment, so different jobs by industry and by sector and things like that, get into some of the characteristics of employment for workers within the region, and then finally get a little bit into trends and projections, a lot of that driven by the travel demand model that was updated for the 2050 MTP. So in that end, kind of tying in the monitoring report to some of the recent long-range transportation planning work that the MPO has been doing. And then finally, the travel section is just providing an overview of the region's multimodal transportation system and some of the trends impacting it. For example, some of the impacts COVID had on transportation, amongst others. This section was also expanded beyond the current monitoring report to capture that discussion of performance measures coming out of the performance measures workshop, but also highlights the current and planned work that the MPO is doing, and also get into kind of the funding side of things. So that figure 25 you see there, just a brief example of some of the funding related content in this section that just looks at how funds are programmed for transportation within the region based on the MPO's current TIP document. And that will bring us into our next steps. And as I had mentioned, that the project will essentially conclude with the staff training session scheduled for November 2nd with the MPO staff, where we basically get together to talk through the project, the process of developing the monitoring report, and then provide some information and some training again to help enable the staff to update the monitoring report in the future in-house, and just provide all those resources and things to help make that possible. So with that, I can leave it for any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Jeremy. Are there any questions for Jeremy regarding the final report for the monitoring report update in the room or online? Questions or comments? Gabe?
Thanks, Kim. Maybe it's a Jeremy question, maybe it's a you question. In terms of updates to this monitoring report, what's frequency or schedule would we look at, and would this be foreseen that's something that MPO staff takes this version and updates it, or you'd use a consultant to assist with that?
Thanks for the questions, Gabe, and I may defer to Stephen on some of this, but yes, basically the intent of this monitoring report update project was to ensure that further and future updates could be made in-house by MPO staff, that we wouldn't have to rely on a consultant for those periodic updates. Furthermore, we're kind of we're addressing the frequency of the updates through the safety policy study. Part of our ongoing monitoring with some of the items in that study could very easily be addressed through a monitoring report and the updates that occur to that. So it's very likely that the updates would occur on an annual basis in relation to performance measure targets that are being set and adopted. Stephen, would you have anything else to add to that?
No, I think that covers it well. I can be flexible with the amount of updates. Some of the data fields will not be updatable every year, but certainly some will as well. So,
if I may, I think that maybe that was my, question. Some of this stuff looks like it'd be hard to change on an annual basis. So if it was an annual update, or even if you need to do an annual update, I'm just making sure that you're not taking on more work than what you need to. It looks like a really great document, is really good information, and then it's just a question of, okay, well, now what do we do with it? If this is just like
yeah, the idea is that this is a foundation for us to work with going forward. By updating every year, that doesn't mean it will be a comprehensive reset. It's basically just using this as the foundation, update applicable data that might be updatable, and retain that similar format so that the public knows what to expect and can get familiar with the layout of the report.
So my last one would be, hopefully you get some of the, as part of your deliverables, the data sources that were used. So if you can just add the 2025 information or 2026 information and publish the new document, it kind of looks the same. You don't have to reformat the whole world.
Correct. Yep, that's part of the deliverable package, and will be part of the staff training as well that we'll be going to.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Question. Stephen, did you have anything else to add?
Just that we just wanted to give Jeremy and his team at HDR a shout out for the excellent work that they did on the project. They were extremely responsive to all of our concerns. The workshop that we held in May with our jurisdictions was excellent, and all of the suggestions that they had were incorporated into the report. And I think that they did an excellent job with that. And at the staff level, we would be just looking for a motion to accept this final report.
Before we get a motion, I'd like to follow up. If you
Yes,
don't mind.
Will.
Yeah, thank you. This is on the map on page 28 of the monitoring report. And absolutely, kudos to everyone on this. As someone who did this and got deeply invested in it back in the last time it was reformatted, I'm really impressed with watching this thing grow. Regarding the map, though, just to note, it's really impossible for people with red-green color blindness to be able to differentiate between the two types of. I think it's unsatisfactory is supposed to be probably red, I'm assuming, and inadequate being green, and they look exactly the same. If there's any way like one or the other colors could be more dark or higher contrast in comparison to the other, it would help differentiate them. And then the last comment or question actually is for the MPO in general, and this is kind of coming out of another meeting I had with another MPO, is how can this report help your future planning efforts and maybe help reduce the burden on consultants, specifically the idea that could this data then be referenced by default as opposed to having to have a consultant kind of do the background conditions of an MPO every single time. It's probably an introduction to every single plan. I know Fargo Moorhead was looking at ways to say we don't need to have them look at population statistics and reprint that in every single report when it's already in this document that's been adopted by the MPO. So something to look at, especially as you're issuing RFPs in the future.
Sure. Very good comments. Thank you, Will. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we can make a note of that map and change the color before we get the final version.
7% of the male population has that red-green color blind. So yeah, thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Gabe?
Maybe it just comes from my local angle on some of these things. Probably nothing has to be changed in the report itself, but when you lump all the communities together and look at the tip and then summarize to say, here's the expenditures that this community has spent on construction and preservation, yes, it's according to the tip, but that's not the right number related to what all the communities are actually spending on some of our roadways maintenance that's not federally funded. So I just want to make sure that distinction is made, and anything that we're doing MPO related, that covers the functional class system and the stuff that's in the tip. But there's a lot of stuff that we're doing that's not in there. So if you generalize and say this is what Bismarck's doing, that number's not right. But it's right if you say this is what Bismarck is doing on the functional class system, then I have no objection to that language. But just kind of grouping it all together, I guess it gives me the wrong impression.
That would be an easy tweak to the text in that section.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to do that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other comments, questions, remarks? Okay. Again, this is the final report for the monitoring report update. Staff is looking for a motion to recommend approval of this final report. Is there such a motion?
This is Gabe, so moved.
Okay, we have a first. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Loretta, I would second that motion.
Okay, we had a second in the room by Will Hutchings. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Daniel Naren,
Yes.
Dan Shriak,
Yes.
Deidre Hughes,
Yes.
Gabe Schell,
Yes.
Loretta Marshak,
Yes.
Riley McAdoo-Raisler,
Yes.
Logan Bisey,
Yes.
Mitch Flanagan,
Yes.
Will Hutchings,
Yes.
and Chair Ripple.
Yes. The final report has been recommended for approval. Item number 4 on the agenda is the fiscal year 2028 Transportation Alternatives Projects, and Stephen is providing a summary and update of that.
Thank you, Chair Ripple. The MPO issued its final solicitation for the fiscal year 28 TA program on September 15th, received applications through October 15th. Funding levels for the TA program are uncertain, but the current estimate DOT has provided for fiscal year 28 is $840,000 in federal dollars, for which we will be competing with Minot and Grand Forks and their MPOs for that funding. For the FY28 solicitation, we received a total of 4 project applications, and I will provide an overview of those applications for you. First, we had the City of Lincoln, the Lincoln Park District, submitted a preservation project, the 66th Street Shared Use Path Safety Improvements. This is to install decorative pedestrian lighting on 2 segments of pathway, one from Lincoln Road to 28th Avenue and one from Santee Road to the southern city limits, just south of Humbert Drive. This project would also include paving the gravel segment of Shared Use Path from Santee to the southern city limits. So basically, 2 segments of project, 2 segments of lighting, 1 segment of paving is the intention. So the total cost estimate of eligible expenses is $360,000 with a $291,000 federal request. And I'm not I believe that Matt Schabel is here from Lincoln to represent them if he has anything he would like to add. Okay, so I covered it, but he's here for any questions as well. If anybody has any, does anybody have any comments or questions on that application?
Maybe just a clarification. Stephen, you used the definition of preservation on this project type. Can you maybe explain that compared to in a construction when it's new lights and new trail on top of a gravel section that's there? Maybe I was struggling with the distinction of preservation. Now, I don't know if that actually matters in the grand scheme of what we're calling it, but...
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really, because I was looking at it as like the lighting and the paving of an existing pathway are more like trying to kind of maintain and upgrade the existing system as opposed to laying down completely new pathway or building completely new infrastructure. That's generally the definition that we would use for that, kind of to differentiate between the two. But it kind of, if you squint, I suppose you could see it either way.
I had one question too. Do you happen to know the length of each one of these trail segments that are proposed? I see one that shows 5,700 linear feet, and the Claremont Trail one, the length is provided. I'm just kind of looking at dollar cost and trying to kind of get a cost per foot or mile. If you don't have that, that's understandable. I could look it up as well based on the extents you provided.
So the north segment is approximately 2,500 feet, 33 light structures. And then the application, the south segment, approximately 28 light structures, and the paving would be about 1,600 feet. I will move on to summarize the next application, which is City of Mandan Park District, their Highway 1806 pedestrian trail improvements. This is a project proposed to resurface the existing 10-foot wide asphalt pedestrian trail from 14th Street Northwest past 27th Street North and also under the I-94 bridge on Highway 1806. So this project will include overlay and drainage improvements throughout to address flooding of the trail and deteriorated pavement, as well as pedestrian safety enhancements consisting of a separation barrier underneath the I-94 bridge. There is no existing barrier between the roadway and the trail at this location. Total cost is $1.1 million, of which $771,000 is federal aid eligible, and so the federal request for the project is $624,000. Grant Moore is the engineer that provided City of Mandan or assisted them with this application, so he is online if you'd like to add anything to my summary.
I think you did a good job, Stephen. One thing I would add is just the growth in this north part of Mandan here. The high school was added in the last couple of years. along with the new middle school. So if you drive down if you drive down Collins in 1806 before or after school, you do see a lot of bicyclists and pedestrians using that trail to access the schools, along with new residential development up there. So making sure we have that connectivity and accessibility for these residents is important. And if you drive under that I-94 bridge, it is lacking that separation, so it can be a little scary traveling that path right there with the cars so close to you. And that Collins Avenue is now much busier than it was before with that high school as well. So just trying to maintain that connectability and accessibility for these residents is important.
Do we have any comments or questions from the board on this application? Moving on then to third one, which we have City of Bismarck. This is the State Street multi-use trail rehabilitation. The project is proposing to resurface the existing 10-foot wide shared use path, asphalt overlay on approximately, so it'd be 5,700 linear feet along the west side of State Street from the Capitol grounds at Divide Avenue all the way to Calgary Avenue. And just a couple of notes, this path was recently extended all the way to 43rd, so there is a new segment of pathway starting at Calgary going to 43rd now. And I will also just say, just driving in that area, there is clear deterioration of the pathway. So they're proposing total cost of $475,000 with a federal share of $380,000. And if Bismarck would like to add any comments to my summary, welcome to do so.
No, I think this is probably our fourth or fifth time applying for this particular program. Dave Mayer and Parks District in the back giggling as I say that. And maybe I'll save some comments for at the end when we talk about all the projects collectively, but preservation projects, I think you get a hard time. I guess in my terminology of preservation, of that thing exists already, we're trying to repair it or keep it in a state of good repair. I think they get a tough show at TA because that's not what the TA program metrics are used for. So we can talk more about that as we prioritize our projects. But no, Stephen, you covered the summary just fine. Thanks.
I would just add, I think this is one segment of trail and bicycle and active transportation facilities we have in our region that is, you can clearly see people using it frequently. So, that argument gets made all the time that nobody uses these things, but that's absolutely not the case, especially in this one.
So then our final TA application for this year's solicitation is from Bismarck Parks and Recreation District. They submitted project for Claremont Trail Connections, and this is to construct a 10-foot wide asphalt trail connections throughout Claremont Family Conservation Park from Gulf Drive to Claremont Road. It's roughly 3,300 feet, and I will attempt to show the map on that because it is rather confusing if you do not see the project. So there's a little bit of a winding connection. Let me see if I can get to, so kind of a snapshot overview of what we're looking at, and also pictures of the existing park. I will note that currently there's no proposal to remove any of the existing kind of unpaved natural trails in this area. This is purely new trail and new connections in this area. And the project has a total cost of $879,000 with a federal share of $703,000. And Dave Mayer is from Bismarck Parks is present if he would like to add anything to my summary.
Good morning. Just a few comments to make. The project, for those who don't know, we have a master plan for this park, and we're looking at segmentally adding these new shared use paths to basically make a connection through the city of Bismarck. This is one spot where we're kind of missing a few links to connect up the shared use paths. This east-west segment, and in the future we plan to do a north-south segment. The east-west segment will connect eventually to the trail that we have along River Road, and that will connect through the sidewalk on Gulf Drive to our shared use paths that go along Century Avenue. So this would be a nice connection, excuse me, a nice connection piece for anybody that's traveling on Century Avenue to get down to the river. Right now, they either have to go on what you saw on the couple of pictures on a very rough single track, or they would have to go down Burnt Boat Road, or take the extremely steep trail down, shared use path down the switchback down from Overlook, Chief Looking's Village, Overlook to Pioneer Park. Multiple routes where there could be some issues, some clashes. There isn't a dedicated pedestrian or bicycle way that is continuous to get from Tyler Parkway or Century Avenue down to River Road, and that's what we're looking to do with this connection. And to, in conjunction with the city of Bismarck, we're looking to make a sidewalk connection on Claremont Road and down the little segment that you saw on that screen shot. Proposed is from Claremont Road down to River Road. We're looking to do a little sidewalk segment in there that could be 6 to 8 feet wide that will make that little piece that we're missing. Ultimately, our goal at the Park District is to try and make continuous connections with our shared use paths so that we don't have those spots where it could be unsafe for somebody that's traveling on a sidewalk or by walking or on a bicycle in the street. If we can avoid that, that's our goal, is to try and make those continuous connections. So this is one piece to that puzzle that we're trying to fill in.
I'd argue if you're coming from if you're going from Chief Looking's Village, getting down isn't the problem. It's getting back up. That last little segment is impossible.
I don't disagree with you. Yeah.
Every time. Yeah, you're right.
Gradual.
This would open up, access to the riverfront trail system for almost all of North Bismarck. When you think about its connection to Century and even further out to State Street and so on. So, I think it's a worthy project overall.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Stephen, do you have anything else to add as far as a summary, or are we ready?
Nothing for the summary. If there are no comments or questions, I will just simply summarize the projects as a whole and let the board discuss. So, MPO staff scored all 4 of these applications against the goals and objectives of our Arrive 2050 MTP using the new scoring rubric, which was developed by the MTP Steering Committee. We also met the MPO's Bike Ped Subcommittee, scored the applications pairwise against one another at their October 29th meeting. So these scores were then combined to produce the rankings shown on the summary sheet, which are provided for. These scores and rankings are provided for your information and discussion. So the details of how those scores and ranks were arrived at are included in the packet following this summary. They're provided for the information discussion for you guys, final prioritization or non-prioritization of projects sent to DOT for their consideration is, of course, at the discretion of Policy Board, and you as TAC can provide whatever recommendations you feel appropriate. The current ranking that we have is the Lincoln Project 1, the City of Mandan 1806 at 2, City of Bismarck State Street at 3, and then Claremont Trail at 4. So leave it open for discussion and comment.
Are there any comments or questions regarding the ranking? Any discussion that needs to take place? Gabe?
Yep, thank you. There's never going to be a perfect system in terms of taking 4 projects. I think all 4 of these are great projects, fulfill needs in all these communities. And the concept of taking a representation of that Bike Ped subcommittee and having them look at these and weight them and rate them against each other is great. The concept of MPO staff looking at this relative to the goals and objectives in the MTP is good. I still think we'll never get the correct rubric that will adequately compare a safety-oriented new trail over here to a recreational component over here compared to some maintenance thing over there adequately. I mean, it's just tough to manage what those values should be for each of those things. And even if I look through some of those ratings of the MPO staff scores, and I thank you for including that in the agenda, I might argue that some of these projects probably should have had more of those points given to them. Like, well, actually, that project also should have got those points. So I don't put as much weight maybe to the staff score in particular or the rating, just knowing that there could be some flexibility there. But it's never a perfect system, I guess, is what it boils down to. So I appreciate the work that the MPO has done to get us to this point, to give us something to work through. But I guess I would be open to, if there's an entity that really feels passionate about their project or about their needs, definitely I'm open to taking the overall ranking and saying that's great, but let's move this one off to the side. Like I said before, I probably care more about what are the best chances for a project to get funded at the statewide level. Like, what are the goals of the TA program? What are the projects that they're looking for? And making sure that we're putting the best projects we can forward from our area, so that we don't say, this is our great preservation project, and then if the statewide group says, we really don't like those, like, well, we might have wasted our project prioritization in letting a Grand Forks or a Minot project sneak its way above the list because we just didn't put our best project forward. So I'll rest there for the time being here.
Thanks for your comments, Gabe. I would just like to follow up to those and let the TAC know that the ranking has been supported in various ways through previous years. Historically, some years the ranking that's presented has been recommended for approval and then approved by policy board, and then of course ultimately it goes to North Dakota DOT, and undergoes a whole nother selection committee once it reaches DOT. So basically what we're doing is we're providing DOT with our regional priorities. Also, in light of the preservation and construction delineation for projects, in fact, last year, we were instructed by TAC to submit prioritized rankings for each project type or category. So we had #1 ranked preservation and #1 ranked construction last year. And that ultimately is totally at the discretion of the TAC and Policy Board if you'd like to provide a directive in that regard.
I'd also like to just remind you that, again, while funding levels are quite uncertain, one thing to keep in mind as we send projects on is that $840,000 federal total is, again, we're competing with Grand Forks and Minot for the distribution of those funds. So funding levels, while we wish they weren't applicable, sometimes they are a consideration for us.
Any other comments or discussion? Gabe?
I'll add one more component. I do want to give credit to Lincoln, Park District and City of Lincoln, in terms of what they're asking for of this project is just the finishing touches on some other items that they've either locally performed in terms of the trail construction on the north segment, or secured other state and federal funding sources as per the graveling the segment, the south segment from Santee to the southern city limit. So while this project might just look like a $360,000, total cost, it's likely much larger when you take into the perspective of all the dollars that Lincoln has either invested themselves or sought other funding sources. So I guess I just applaud Lincoln for approaching it in that way. I think that's a really smart way to try to piece these things together, and in the end, you have a really good facility that you can be proud of.
Thanks, Gabe. Any other discussion? If not, staff would be looking for a motion to recommend the prioritized ranking as shown on the summary sheet to Policy Board to be forwarded on to North Dakota DOT, with the understanding that Policy Board can change the prioritization at their discretion.
Yes, Kim, I would make a motion to submit the prioritization with both a preservation and construction component, but the Lincoln Park District one being a construction, because I do view installing new lights, installing new pavement as a construction element of new things and not a preserving what you have. So I think that would be a spectacular new construction. In all honesty, probably fits better into what the TA statewide program is trying to get at anyway. So I think that would actually probably help its chances. Followed by the City of Mandan Park District as the #1 preservation type component, because that is really more of a preserving what's out there and making some tweaks to it. And then we can have the City of Bismarck and Bismarck Park District projects follow behind that. I think would be more than appropriate for this go-round in their respective categories.
Okay.
So it's a really long motion, but I think it's simple once you take all my words out and just
That's fine. I think that we can sum it up as that you recommend approval by the policy board as the City of Lincoln construction project, the number one construction priority, and the City of Mandan preservation project, the number one preservation project priority.
Bingo.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Riley, thank you. Any discussion? And roll call vote, please.
Daniel Naren,
Yes.
Dan Shriak,
Yes.
Deidre Hughes,
Yes.
Gabe Shell,
Yes.
Loretta Marshak,
Yes.
Riley McAdoo Raisler,
Yes.
Logan Bisey,
Yes.
Mitch Flanagan,
Yes.
Will Hutchings,
Yes.
and Chair Ripple.
Yes. The motion has been approved. Thank you. Item number 5 on the agenda today is the fiscal year 2030 Highway Safety Improvement Program projects. And Stephen will also be presenting those.
Thank you, Chair. So, yes, the MPO issued its final solicitation for fiscal year 30 Highway Safety Improvement Program in September and accepted applications through October 24th. We did receive a total of 3 applications for this year's round, and so I will present an overview of the applications for you. The first one we have is the City of Mandan has submitted for a construction project at the Sunset Drive 27th Street North intersection. They are proposing to construct a single-lane roundabout with pedestrian islands to improve traffic flow, reduce queue lengths, and improve safety for all intersection users. Their application does note that this is a very busy intersection, has a lot of safety issues. So this is again, a proposed project to improve safety and traffic flow in this area. The total cost of this is about $2.67 million with a federal request of $2.4 million. If the City of Mandan would like to add to my summary, please feel free to do so.
I'll just add that with the high school and the middle school kind of just east on 27th, most of the movements here are left turns and right turns. So right turns off of Sunset onto 27th and left turns off of 27th onto Sunset.
Thanks, Riley. Any additional comments on that?
The City of Bismarck has submitted then for a construction project. This is a rectangular rapid flashing beacons installation at 4 locations. So they're proposing to install RFB at 4 pedestrian crossings throughout Bismarck, significant crossings. So the crosswalk between Century High School and Gateway Mall, a crossing at Washington Street and Avenue B, a crossing at Riverside Park Road just south of Memorial Bridge, and a crossing at Airport Road and Lee Avenue. Again, all of these, they are trying to address pedestrian safety and conflict with vehicles. And the total cost is $690,000 with a $621,000 federal share. City of Bismarck want to add anything to my summary?
Sure, thanks, Stephen. Maybe just a couple items. The crosswalk location at Century High School. Actually, we'd talked to our board to get approval to apply for this at the Bismarck City Commission level, and then subsequently after, there was actually a pedestrian vehicle crash at that intersection, recognizing that, yes, that the risk that we all knew was there manifested itself with an actual crash. I'm thankful that the student is okay or is getting to be okay. So I want to note that one, that in some ways we try to be proactive, but in this one we're proactive in the sense, but still reacting to issues that are out there. The last one I want to mention too is just the crossings at Airport Road and Lee Avenue is a result of the Safe Routes to Services study that the MPO did, identifying where our pedestrians are walking, trying to get to their places, and recognizing that there's some areas in our community that's not the easiest journey for them. So thanks once again to the MPO for producing that study. It's given us some real good actionable steps, and this is, I guess, our next step in that process is looking for some funding to implement some of those recommendations.
Follow up to that. Gabe, did the trail lawn East Bismarck Expressway, did that ever get constructed? I know it was talked about and an application was submitted for it at one time because we were dealing with a lot of pedestrians who were walking along Bismarck Expressway. I'm just curious what the status of that is because I haven't been down there in a while.
Sure, Will. Yes, that was a TA-funded project from, I think we constructed in 2023 or so, with the same time that the DOT did a mill and overlay on Bismarck Expressway. So constructed a sidewalk on the north side of the road from about 26th Street to about 19th Street or so. Yep.
Any other comments on that particular project?
Well, then we have Burleigh County. They have submitted for construction project at Apple Creek Road and the 66th Street Southeast intersection. They are proposing to construct either a hybrid roundabout or another applicable safety improvement at this intersection, seeking to reduce conflict points and allow for future street development in the area. And they did note that the exact nature of the improvement would be determined by the preliminary research and study at this intersection, what would be most appropriate. But they're currently giving a cost estimate of $4.5 million with a roughly $4 million federal request for the project. And I don't know, Dan, if you'd like to add anything to my summary.
Just a little bit. This particular intersection and project has been highly requested and supportive from the city of Lincoln. So even though this is a Burleigh County project, it has been, well, like I said, highly supported by the city of Lincoln.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Any other comments on that? No? Go ahead, Stephen.
Okay. So then to summarize, the MPO staff has scored the applications against the goals and objectives of the MTP using the new scoring rubric developed by the MTP Steering Committee. The scores are shown on the summary sheet provided for information and discussion. But, you know, as I said, there's no perfect system for this. We thought that all of these were excellent projects with different just really good projects. And I will also note that historically, the boards have usually elected to send HSIP projects to DOT unprioritized. That has been the common practice. So again, scores are just there for informational purposes. And yeah, we would leave it to TAC to recommend approval and prioritization as they would like.
Do we have such a motion?
Dan, I'll make that motion to submit to DOT unprioritized.
Unprioritized. Okay, thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
I'll second that, but I do want to have a discussion.
And is there any discussion?
It's more just a clarification piece to Dan and the HSIP application for the roundabout. In the text, it talks about hybrid roundabout option 2 is recommended, and that the traffic operations report has been included for reference, but that wasn't in the MPO's attachment. So I just want to make sure that
will be provided to DOT as part of the final submittal, but it was a very lengthy document, and so we decided not to shove it in.
I just want to make sure we weren't just giving them 3 pages and say, here, this is what we want to do. It might not be the best application. So thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Daniel Naren,
Yes.
Dan Shriak,
Yes.
Deidre Hughes,
Yes.
Gabe Schell,
Yes.
Loretta Marshak,
Yes.
Riley McAdoo-Raisler,
Yes.
Logan Bizey,
Yes.
Mitch Flanagan,
Yes.
Will Hutchings,
Yes.
and Chair Ripple.
Yes, the motion is approved. Item number 6 on the agenda is a fiscal year 29 urban grants program projects. Stephen Larson.
Thank you. I'm sure that everyone is getting tired of listening to me talk, but that's the way the agenda played out this month. The MPO issued its final solicitation for the fiscal year 29 urban grants program in September. We accepted applications through October 24th and received 3. So I will give an overview of those applications, beginning with the City of Bismarck. We have the Washington Street Traffic Signal Modernization Project. So they are proposing to replace the entire traffic signal system at Washington Street and Broadway Avenue to enhance safety, improve traffic flow, and better serve all users. The existing signal has passed its useful life, and there are known pedestrian safety issues, including a pedestrian fatality in June of 25. That will be addressed with pedestrian push buttons and leading intervals. Improving and modernizing the signal system at Washington Street and Rosser Avenue is also proposed. This would reduce north-south congestion and eastbound emergency vehicle delays. Upgrades will include flashing yellow arrow left turn heads, video detection cameras, pedestrian push buttons, and the replacement of the signal cabinet. The project carries a cost of $968,000, of which $880,000 is federal aid eligible, and the federal request is $700,000 for this project. Does Bismarck have anything they'd like to add to my summary?
No, nothing really. We tried to put together two projects, one that would be probably smaller in cost that might be able to fit better into the DOT's programming allotment, and then the other, which we'll talk later, which is a little more costly. So that was kind of our strategy in terms of providing a couple of projects for DOT's consideration.
Moving to the Mandan project for this. This is a construction project. This is their downtown First Street and Avenues reconstruction phase 2. They did, I believe, just receive Urban Grants Program for phase 1 of this project. So, and we've seen aspects of this project come before us before. This would cover First Street Northwest from 2nd Avenue to 4th Avenue, 3rd Avenue Northwest from 1st Street to Main Street, and 2nd Avenue Northwest from 1st Street to Main Street. So they're looking to do a full reconstruction on the 1st Street roadway with concrete due to exceedingly poor pavement condition and the need to replace water main, which precludes a mill and overlay at this location. Also, sidewalk and sidewalk ramp improvements to replace existing poor conditions and bring up to ADA compliance. Curb bulb outs at the 1st Street intersections, signage and striping, beautification elements, benches, bike racks, LED and pedestrian lighting. Sidewalk widths versus the roadway widths will be examined during the preliminary design phase for this. It is a standalone project, not dependent on phases 1 or 3. And the total cost attached to this is $6.2 million, of which $4.7 million is federal aid eligible. The request is $3.7 million for the project. And if Riley has anything he wants to add to my summary, he may do so. All right, then the final project for this year was also Bismarck construction project. This is the Main Avenue. This is a Main Avenue reconstruction from 7th to 9th Street. They are proposing to reconstruct the Main Avenue roadway and its deteriorated pavement, so including new pavement, curb and gutters, street and pedestrian lighting, pavement markings, ADA compliant pedestrian facilities, and upsized modernized storm sewer facilities. The southernmost eastbound driving lane will be converted into a flex lane that will serve as a driving lane until redevelopment on the south side of Main Avenue may lead to a conversion into a parking lane. The existing roadway will be narrowed and wider sidewalks with boulevards will be installed to improve pedestrian safety. Snow storage and redevelopment potential. Access management discussions will be held with property owners during public input process to discuss consolidation of 3 corridor driveways. The project has a $3.5 million price tag with a $3.2 million federal aid eligible and a $2.2 million federal request. Gabe, you have anything to add to the summary?
Yeah, I'll just add, this is, the concept of that flex lane is a change from our previous times that we've submitted on this project. The MPO's Main Avenue corridor study identified this as a segment where we could take our 5-lane section that's out from Airport Road to 26th Street and narrow it down to a 3-lane section closer to our downtown here between 7th and 9th. We've already done that on the north road. We have on-street parking on the north side of the road. And on the south side of the road, we still have 2 driving lanes. And so when we've looked at if the uses on the south side of the road remain as they are, that are very auto-centric, even if we put parking on the south side of the road, there would be still multiple driveways and points of egress that would limit the number of really usable spots that we could use. So our thinking would be, let's build ourselves a roadway that we can change as those needs change. So if in the future the properties on the south side of the road turned into a more pedestrian friendly type of facility or uses, that's pretty easy to then convert their driveway into full curb and utilize this now wider sidewalk. So we're trying to find a way to implement something that works both today, but then also can be used into the future, and that's kind of how we approach this particular submittal.
Okay, thank you, Gabe.
So to summarize this, we scored the applications against the MTP. The scores are shown on the summary sheet and provided for information and discussion. Final prioritization or non-prioritization of projects sent to DOT for consideration is at the discretion of TAC and Policy Board. Historically, UGP projects have normally been prioritized in some way by the boards, so leave that open for discussion and a motion as appropriate.
And what are the wishes of the board?
This is Gabe. I'd move to approve all three of the projects in an unprioritized fashion to the DOT.
All three unprioritized. Thanks, Gabe. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Riley. We have a motion. We have a second. Roll call vote, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Daniel Marin,
Yes.
Dan Triok,
Yes.
Deidre Hughes,
Yes.
Gabe Schell,
Yes.
Loretta Marshak,
Yes.
Logan Bisey,
Yes.
Riley McAdoo Raisler,
Yes.
Mitch Flanagan,
Yes.
Will Hutchings,
Yes.
and Chair Ripple.
Yes, motion is approved. Thank you all. Item number 7 on the agenda, the North Dakota DOT Bismarck-Mandan MPO 2026 UPWP contract. Exhibit O in your packet shows the standard annual contract between North Dakota DOT and the MPO. This is tied to the MPO's 2026-2027 UPWP and to the MPO's share of the 2026 Consolidated Planning Grant. The contracting parties are shown on this as North Dakota DOT and the City of Bismarck on behalf of the Bismarck-Mandan MPO. And this identification is because the MPO's funding is actually provided by the City of Bismarck and is then reimbursed back to the city by North Dakota DOT using the CPG funds. The 2026 UPWP contract runs from January 1 through December 31 of 2026, and the contracted amount is for a maximum federal amount of $799,699.55 in CPG funding to fund the federal share of MPO's 2026 budget in the UPWP. The contract is undergoing Bismarck's internal contract review process right now, and upon MPO approval by the Policy Board and successful contract review by the city, the contract will be brought to the Bismarck City Commission on December 9th for their approval and electronic signing. Staff is requesting a recommendation of approval of the 2026 UPWP contract. Are there any questions? No questions, no comments? Okay. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll move to approve.
A motion to approve by Deidre. Is there a second?
This is Gabe. I'll second.
Thank you, Gabe. We have a second. Any discussion?
Kim, will the draft, I'm assuming the draft watermark would be removed, but the information that's on that title sheet and talks about the federal award and all the other information, will that be filled out, or is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that will.
It's filled out at the time it's authorized. That's the very last step in the contract negotiation, or the contract agreement. So basically, it's the last thing we fill out, and then the draft gets automatically removed at that point.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Yep, and I'll just add, I want to give kudos to Kim for a work well done on getting the UPWP and the contract in place. We had very little changes that had to be made along the way, and it was very easy and pretty seamless. So well done to you, and hopefully every year goes like this. So
Appreciate that. I'll echo those thoughts. It's been pretty smooth. Again, we have a motion to recommend approval and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Daniel Marin,
Yes.
Dan Triok,
Yes.
Deidre Hughes,
Yes.
Gabe Schell,
Yes.
Loretta Marshak,
Yes.
Riley McAdoo Raisler,
Yes.
Logan Bisey, Mitch Flanagan,
Yes.
Will Hutchings,
yes.
and Chair Ripple.
Yes, the motion is approved. Thank you. Number 8 on the agenda is the ATAC addendum to the master agreement. Actually, this is Exhibit P in the packet. However, I did distribute a handout earlier, and Stephen will share that on his screen as well. So what you are seeing is an amendment to the ATAC Master Agreement for automated traffic data collection at 5 Mandan signalized intersections. This is very similar to the data collection project that was successfully implemented in the city of Bismarck. Mandan's pilot project would include everything provided in the scope of work, which has been provided in the packet exhibit, with the project beginning in January of 2026 and concluding 18 months later. The packet exhibit shows a project cost that actually exceeds $45,000. That has been revised. What you TAC members have in front of you is a revised budget schedule that shows a total cost of $44,793, and that is because the project cost of $45,000 was included and approved as part of the UPWP. I will note that we are still awaiting a further refined addendum from ATAC, but it will be for the amount shown on the screen of $44,793. City of Mandan would provide the full 20% match on this project. Are there any questions regarding the project or the addendum? Gabe.
Kim, the one you handed out still has a 45,867. Is that what you're referring to? That will be revised
On
in whatever
page 1.
Version ATAC will send you?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. They revised the second page and the budget schedule, but they failed to revise on the cover sheet of the contract, so.
And then maybe a follow-up question for Riley. Which 5 intersections are you guys going to do, or has that been determined?
I know we've taken a look at Main and Memorial Highway are kind of where we're going to focus this effort. I don't think we're going to worry about 3rd Street and 6th yet. We don't have a ton of signalized intersections, but those are kind of the ones we're talking about right now.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments? If not, staff would be looking for a motion to recommend approval of the addendum to the ATAC Master Agreement as presented.
I'll move to approve.
Riley, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
This is Gabe. I'll second.
Gabe, thank you. Any discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Daniel Naren,
Yes.
Dan Shriak,
Yes.
Deidre Hughes,
Yes.
Gabe Shell,
Yes.
Loretta Marshak,
Yes.
Riley McAdoo Raisler,
Yes.
Logan Bisey, Mitch Flanagan,
Yes.
Will Hutchings,
Yes.
and Chair Ripple.
Yes, motion is approved. Thank you. Moving on to number 9 on the agenda is the 2025 Safety Policy Study with Luke Champa. Are you with us, Luke?
Yes, I'm here, Chair Ripple, TAC. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, I'll keep this brief. So previous month here, we've been putting together a draft report for the safety policy study. We held our 5th steering committee meeting last week on the 13th. Thank you for those who participated in that. And then for those who did not, I just want to provide a little background on the draft report. It includes 8 chapters. Chapter 1, Introduction and Background. Chapter 2, Multimodal Transportation Safety, looking at the 5-year period of 2020 through 2024. And then Chapter 3, State of Practice, looking at the solid foundation of safety and transportation safety plans, studies, and policies of the region. Chapter 4 provides a summary of public engagement conducted for the safety policy study. Chapter 5 dives into the data analysis, specifically methodology, where the crash data was gathered from, and then introduction to the high injury network methodology. Chapter 6 provides high injury network analysis results. Chapter 7 dives into the safety strategies and toolkit for engineering and non-engineering strategies. And then Chapter 8 provides the implementation and road to zero information. Also included in with the report are appendices, and there are several, Appendix A through Appendix F. Appendix A is the historical crash trend summary, more technical version of that Chapter 2. Appendix B is the state of practice, again, a more technical version of the Chapter 3. Appendix C is the public engagement summary. So that includes the key theme reports from our public engagement efforts. Appendix D is the high injury network methodology and results, the technical facing or the technical memo of the high injury network methodology. And then Appendix E is the high injury network one-pagers outlining specific locations and the crashes that contributed to that high injury network location. And then the one thing that y'all haven't seen is the safety strategies toolkit, as discussed at our previous steering committee meeting. I'm just putting the final touches on that, including the relinking of some of the buttons in that PowerPoint. I'm hoping to accomplish that today. I thought it would be Friday, but it's a little bit more involved effort than I had imagined. So today I'd like to get out our steering committee summary notes in draft, and then send also the draft Appendix F for everyone's review on the steering committee. And then I will just really quickly go through our final steps here. So we had our draft report and appendices sent out on Friday, November 7th to the steering committee. We're expecting comments back by end of day Wednesday, November 26th, just before Thanksgiving. We'll be turning around and discussing the final draft and the incorporation of comments and feedback at the final steering committee meeting, which is scheduled for Wednesday, December 3rd. We're looking at a 60-minute meeting. Will be held 100% virtually to make it easier for everyone to participate. And then back in front of this committee on Monday, December 15th for final action and or final recommendation, and then policy board action on Tuesday, December 16th. So we're coming up to the end here. I appreciate everyone's discussion, comments from last week. Those are really helpful in making some refinements right away. But obviously, we'll be watching for more feedback as we get closer to Thanksgiving. So I think that's the update, Kim. If I missed anything, please feel free to add it. But I really appreciate everyone's involvement so far. All the comments that we've received, it's good stuff, and will only make for a better final report for you all.
All right. Well, thank you, Luke. I think you pretty well covered things. Are there any questions for Luke? Seeing and hearing none. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you all.
Item number 10 is the 2025 ITS Regional Architecture Update with Sherijad Hassan. Are you online with us?
Hey, thank you, Chair Ripple. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. What I'm going to do, I have a couple of, I have a small slide, presentation slides ready. Just let me share my screen quickly over here. Or screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you so much, and still is good morning to all the TAC members. Thanks for all of your continued support and engagement in the ITS Architecture Update Initiative. I'm just going to go very quickly on some more progress that we have made, and I have already submitted a draft report for this ITS architecture plan. And before I start, I want to make a couple of corrections, which I thought I would do it in the beginning, but then I missed that chance. On page 5 of the draft report, if I can pull that up for you right over here. So on page 5, which is the list of stakeholders, on this draft, I have missed two stakeholders' name. One is the ATAC and one is the Bismarck IT. It was just while I was bringing the data from the Excel file, and that's when I missed it. So and obviously I'll correct those for the final one. But this is something I want to bring. I want to bring that in to the committee's attention. So these would be the ATEC and Bismarck IT. These would be the two stakeholders that will be identified in this report. So just following what Luke did in the last presentation, so it stays streamlined. I have the list of in this report. We have identified the region and the scopes of this architecture update. We identified the stakeholders on chapter 3. Chapter 4 is all the ITS elements. Chapter 5 talks about all the service packages that has been identified using the Reddit tool and the ARKit tool supported by the FHWA. And then chapter 6, 7, 8, they are for operational concept, the list of agreements and functional requirements from 9 and 10. So chapter 9 is very important for the from the IT perspective, because it includes all the security standards that or security protocol standards that would be needed for the further discussion on this ITS, even beyond this project. And number 10 is the planning aspect, where we have included the associated goals and objectives from the Arrive 2050. In this version of this ITS architecture update, we have two new items that has been added. One is the project architecture, and I'll explain later on why we included it, and some conclusive remark with some suggestions. So with that, let me give you a small overview on the update tasks. So far we have implemented all the updates, and now we are in in the zone on reviewing, finalizing, and ratifying any of these documents. This is an overview of this architecture. So initially developed in 2005, we had already gone through 3 updates, and so eventually this is the 5th document. And for this time, we have kept the planning horizon as 5-year. So the reason is for some of the stakeholders or some of the user service areas, we have identified that there hasn't been much change in 5 or 10 years, or even per se 15 years. But there are some areas where technologies change very quickly, or Bismarck-Mandan region is adopting those technology changes over the time of 5 years. So again, based on the discussion with different stakeholders, this is the shortest time that any one stakeholder would have been agreed. That's why I kept it like that. And obviously we have the region, as part of the region, we have the city of Bismarck, Mandan, Lincoln, and these portions of Burleigh County and Morton County I have updated based on one of the document from the Bismarck-Mandan MPO. So with that, this is just a difference in what we had in our 4th update and the 5th update, the 4th update that happened in 2021. So the number of stakeholders, those 2 stakeholders that has been added, I just mentioned that ATAC and Bismarck IT are the 2 specific stakeholders that we are going to add into these ITS architecture update. And this is something the Bismarck city engineer Gabe Shale has identified at the beginning of this project and during the kickoff meeting. And thank you for that input, which allows us to include different IT sections in our discussion, and based on which I have been able to identify some of the specific security protocol standards, and that has already been included in this draft report. We are also, other than these identifying new partners, we currently have 26 service package, actually 28 service packages if I include the instances. So these 28 service packages, previously this number was 33. So at that time we had lots of planned and future service packages, but after after a thorough discussion over these years, our ITS architecture update, we identified that reducing this number will guide us towards more specific, towards more going towards more achieving more planning objective and goals, and that's why I have reduced this number this year. And this is kind of an indication that the region has made significant strides in executing their planned initiatives, particularly in relation to these ITS components. And this commitment of completing these elements is really commendable and essential for any ongoing developments. There are some changes into the existing status, planned status, and future status of these service packages. And on my next one, I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. So these identifies all those service packages which were either it was previously in the 2021 ITS architecture planning. But in the 2025 architecture update, we have removed some of them. So starting with the PSO2, it was the part of how ITS components have been used for emergency response, and we have identified several ITS components. For example, the Bismarck Police Department is recognized with its drone program that can upload video footage, and the Metro Area Ambulance has started utilizing a new system called Pulsera that can relate critical patient information to their CAD. So these kind of information or this kind of ITS elements or the involvement of ITS elements have been identified within these service package. So that's why this PS02, which was previously identified as future, has moved to existing. The next one is the PT07. We had it as a planned service package, but we removed this one because according to the new definition of this service package, there has to be presence of ITS elements that can separately identify a passenger when they are alighting on a transit vehicle. And currently we don't have that application in this region. So we kept it, we removed it from our list of transit service packages. A couple more transit service packages that has been removed. One is this transit signal priority, since there was no proof that we have the TSP activated in this region. And another one is the route ID for the visually impaired. Again, this is another service package whose definition has been changed over the new version of ARKit 9.3, and based on that, the service or the app system or whatever other system that has been provided for fixed route or even dynamic route, there is nothing specific provided for the visually impaired. And this one doesn't mean that we are going beyond the ADA compliancy. The ADA compliance is over there, but this service package was an additional point of service for the visually impaired people, which we haven't seen to be deployed yet in this region. There are on the traffic management side, the traffic information dissemination, there were like significant improvement on that side with the use of creating dashboard by DOT as well as the TAC, ATAC, and also the prominent use of DMS boards, which came with more defined ownership and shared uses within these ITS architecture update. The TM07, which is the regional traffic management, that was identified as a future service package, but currently we haven't seen any such coordination. So that's why we are not keeping it into these ITS architecture update. However, this would always be a suggestion for any region that any kind of coordinated action in terms of management has always been proved beneficial for a region. So I'm pretty sure the associated stakeholders will be working towards it. The TM08, that's also it brought there were like significant improvement happened on the traffic incident management system. So especially in terms of that, and these TM08 service packages related to the PSO2, which is the emergency response system. So when some improvement happens on that emergency response system, it automatically makes the TM08 more visible. And that's why we moved it. Some of those information flow, we have been able to move it from the planned to the existing one. The WX01 is one of the service packages that we thought in 2021 that it will improve over the use of different weather data collection equipments on the vehicles, which is already there. We'll have those elevated, or the use of those will be elevated in by 2025 or even 2030. But nothing has been seen as of now, and it didn't sound like there will be any future work towards it. So that's why we have removed these one as of now. There are some additional changes. For example, there are some service packages that I have discussed over the last 8 or 9 months, and eventually that discussion didn't go anywhere. So that's why I could not include it in the ITS architecture update. One of those is the MC09. I remember even in the September update, I mentioned it to this in front of this board that MC09 will go as a planned item, which is the infrastructure monitoring. But when I reviewed the service package definition, I identified that MC09 does not qualify as a transportation related infrastructure protection in the sense of how the Bismarck Maintenance Department plan to use the camera system from a vehicle to check on their garbage cans or similar items. So rather, what I did is I have used an extensional functional requirement for the service package MC02, which will cover that specific service, and I kept it as a planned functional requirement item. There are some so the another one is this TM 285, which is the wrong way detection service. This was discussed a couple of times in while we had the meeting with the stakeholders. But these wrong way detection, I couldn't include it because this service package does not have any active information flow that's coming to the regional agencies or the local agencies, or not even the DOT Bismarck, the Bismarck district of the DOT. So it essentially goes to the statewide, goes to the NDDOT central office, and this service package will be identified on the statewide regional architecture instead of the only for the Bismarck-Mandan regional architecture. We have also identified some couple of agreements this time. One is very common, which is the state roads and the traffic signals located within those jurisdiction of Bismarck and Mandan. They are owned by the DOT but are maintained by the Bismarck one is maintained by the city of Bismarck, and on the Mandan side, that's actually still maintained by the DOT. So for the city of Bismarck side, we have identified this partnership into this architecture update since this partnership ensures that the infrastructure is kept in good condition and benefit all the residents and the visitors. And setting up the other agreement that we have identified is the ATAC work plan for setting up the connection with the Centrax server, and that's been for the identified intersection by the Bismarck Engineering Department. So those are the two additional agreements you're going to see if you compare it with the 2021 one update. One more item which we have identified is the inclusion of project architecture. So when maybe if I click into this one, and this is something during the kickoff meeting, we have identified that Will Hutchins from DOT, he actually requested a way for so that this architecture can be easily translated for users, specifically in terms, I mean, on the level of on the project level. And that's why we have added some project architecture. And actually, this is kind of connected with these agreements, because identifying each of those agreements is always a big challenge for any kind of regional architecture, unless it is determined through the ITS plan or at the very beginning when the architecture was developed. So therefore, this project architecture, which is essentially a well-maintained regional architecture, is really essential for pinpointing any necessary projects within the area. And complementing these, a project architecture also helps to identify any institutional agreements and technical integration that is needed for the ITS projects. And with that, I'm just going to briefly talk about these one. So this is not the final version of the architecture website that you are going to see later on, but this is where you can see the projects that we have identified prior to these ITS architecture update. So the signal controller on Bismarck intersections. So these project architecture, these one happened when there was some work done on the intersections between 7th and 9th along different, I think 5 different avenues. And they were connecting with a video detection capability, as well as they were interconnected with the fiber optic system. And so all these were put into this project architecture. And the main purpose of this architecture is not just to show this information, rather in future, when there will be some new project will be done, or new ITS projects will be done in this region, they can have a template on what kind of information should be over there. So like specifically, who are the stakeholders, what are the inventory items you are working on, what are the service packages you are implementing, and also what kind of information or information flow will happen from different sources. And that's why from that point of view, we will jump into some suggestions for these for the future ITS development on this region. So first of all, one of my suggestion would always be to go through the TEEP and identify different projects where we can identify the projects and request the contractors to provide some kind of architecture information, which can be used in the time of the next update, which might be in 5 years, 6 years, we don't know yet. The other one I have already talked about previously, which is the interagency data exchange, and that happened because because of the new network security protocols, and there are different for the cross-agency data flows. There are significant procedural overhead, and that is all needed for the sake of security and protection of our information. But this can also be an opportunity for us to collaborate with the state IT department to explore any technical solutions. And when they will be, so if we can develop a technical working group with representatives from concerned agencies and state IT team. They can look into this architecture. They can look into the security protocols, the standards, and the list of agreements, which will help them to have a start point of discussion for this. One other suggestion that I have identified is in the MTP, the Arrive 2050, there was a goal for forward thinking where specifically the accommodation of the EV market trends through planning efforts and development opportunities, especially promoting expansion of charging stations. So that's something I was looking for when I was updating these one, because there are very specific service packages that could have been included as part of these one. But since I haven't seen anything or nothing have been discussed of similar sense, so I haven't included it yet. But I'm pretty sure with time and with the Arrive 2050 on hand, we will go towards that route. So that's kind of where we're standing right now. And what I'm working on currently is I'm preparing that specific feedback form that I was actually preparing it for almost 15 days now, but things keep changing, and when new information keeps coming in, I just make changes and never have been able to sort it out. But as of now, I have all those feedback forms ready now. With after these update, I'll be in process of sending those small feedback forms to all the stakeholders, and these will be very specific, not the whole draft, and which will help them to provide any feedback. And hopefully we'll have some feedback by the first week of the December, so that I can include those in the next package for the recommendation from the board in the upcoming meeting. That's all from my side. Any comments would be appreciated.
Does any of the TAC have comments or questions on the draft final report for the ITS regional architecture? Gabe?
Thank you, Shahrajad. This is Gabe. Thank you all for guys hearing me out on the security-related things and the coordination of ITS elements related to our IT and the state's IT. I think it's good that we recognize those challenges, and good that we try to recognize some opportunities to improve that as well. So I appreciate your efforts in that location. Maybe my question is then for Kim, are you looking for comments? Are you looking to adopt this now? This wasn't an action item on the agenda, but as I'm looking through the document that was posted, there's some clerical minor type things I'd like to just update if we have the opportunity to do so still.
Sure, thanks for the question. Gabe, this is a draft final report right now. Shahrajad did indicate that he is developing a form that he'll be sending out to all the stakeholders for a little bit of additional information and final comments. Those comments then would be incorporated into the final draft report. So, Shahrajad, is there any additional means that you would like to receive comments, or is that form that you're going to be sending out, will that be all-inclusive so that stakeholders can put everything on that and you can receive that for incorporation into the final product, or how are you looking at this?
So it will be all inclusive. So in a sense, like, let me give you an example. Like, City of Bismarck will not see any of the elements for City of Mandan. So they will only look into the specific information that is required for them. And based on that, they will provide some feedback if they have any. Because again, all these are made based on the discussion that we had in our during our stakeholders meeting. Either it's a group meeting scenario or it's an individual meeting. So yes, it would be an all-inclusive one.
Okay, thanks. And there would be there would be like a field on this form where they can put in any optional comments regarding anything else that they've seen on the report that they just want to comment on, or typos or anything like that?
Yes, yes. So like they will see like different areas, and after the description of those areas, there will be a small box where they're just going to type down if they have any comment. If nothing, they can just say no comment.
Okay, great. Any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Sherry Jad. Appreciate it. We'll be looking forward to that final report next month then to bring before the TAC and Policy Board. Item number 11 is the Fringe Area Road Master Plan update. Stephen?
Thank you, Chair. Very brief. Today, we just had our kickoff meeting for the project on October 27th, and then our first steering committee meeting for the Fringe Area Road Master Plan was on November 13th. We had very good participation and discussion, so the consultant and I will be working on processing the results of that discussion and incorporating that into our next steps. Over the next month, we'll be working on starting our data collection, preparing for our first major public engagement event, which we are still hoping to hold in early December, and then we will be finalizing a couple of important mapping tools we will be using to collect information from the steering committee, our jurisdictions, and the public. So we are excited to get this underway, and there will be more substantial updates in coming months.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Stephen on the Fringe Area Road Master Plan? Not hearing or seeing any. All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is a discussion on the administrative modifications process. Stephen.
Okay. So again, I'll try to keep this brief, but on a regular basis, the MPO has to make changes to our major documents. So the Unified Planning Work Program, the MTP, or most often the TIP. So our public participation plan lays out a specific process for handling these changes. If changes made are substantial and meet the thresholds provided in the PPP, they are processed as amendments, which have to be approved and advertised accordingly. If changes are minor and fall below the amendment threshold, they are processed administratively as modifications. So these minor changes are then normally presented to TAC and Policy Board as an informational presentation, but there's never any action required of you on those modifications. After some recent discussion about the process at TAC, the MPO would like to suggest that in future we provide you official notice of administrative modifications on the meeting agendas and in the packets, but no longer include them as a presentation at the meetings to save time. Board members could always question or comment on these modifications at the meetings if desired, but normally they would simply be included in the agendas and packets as, again, called out as informational items. We wouldn't need to change our public participation plan in order to do this, as long as we are providing notice. It doesn't matter what format that notice is in. But we did want to bring this to the boards in case you had any questions or concerns before we move forward with this.
This is in response to a discussion that came up last month at the TAC meeting, and so we're wondering if there's any thoughts on this at this point.
One thought I have is I know a lot of the MPOs, and I believe Bismarck does as well, you hold back sending your administrative modifications, those that don't require board approval, until after the board has been notified. Would that still be the case for you guys, or would you?
In most cases it would be. That's just usually the way the workflow kind of works best for us. There are rare occasions where if DOT isn't really in a hurry to see something changed, we have sent it beforehand, but yeah, most of the time it would still be coordinated that way.
Perfect. And then the one thing I'll note is when you do update your PPP, I think in the past there were 3 versions of A's being used, or sometimes amendment was being used to describe an administrative modification and an amendment. The language in CFRs, specifically for TIPs only, is a TIP revision. And then underneath that, it's like an umbrella, which there's amendments and administrative mods. Unfortunately, they didn't make it the same for UPWPs for some reason. So.
Thanks for that comment. Well, the MPO staff will actually be looking at updating our PPP, and so I think that we can address that terminology at that time, so good thing to keep in mind. Any other comments? Gabe?
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of this change. I think it is important, though, to still communicate that out, because I think a lot of times the DOT might be communicating with the MPO with the expectation that the MPO is communicating to the the local agency. So we might not find out that that project moved out a year or is getting advanced somewhere if that wasn't transmitted through the MPO. So I would definitely encourage that to still be done. But yeah, we don't need to spend a lot of time at the meeting. So sounds great to me.
Yeah, great.
I
Okay.
didn't hear that happens because that's the purpose of it. And then I've always wondered whether or not that's how you guys even notice or not. So.
And that was our thought, is that we would still include that exhibit, that administrative modification exhibit in the packet. It would still be listed as an item on the agenda, but it's an informational only type item with no presentation, unless a TAC or policy board member would want to call that forward for consideration and discussion. And if that seems agreeable to everybody, that's the path that we would like to move forward on. Hearing no
Thank you very
objection.
much. No.
All right.
I thought you were going to find a way to make the meetings go longer.
No, I don't think we want to do that. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Will. Next item on the agenda is an update on the Transit Development Plan RFP that was presented last month. Paulette Jacobson.
Thank you, Chair Ripple. Last month, the TAC had recommended approval with some noted changes of the request for proposals for the RFP for the Transit Development Plan, or TDP. And the Policy Board, however, has decided to delay the RFP for at least 3 months due to the timing of it and everything that's going on with Bismarck Transit and their plans regarding the driver's salary increase, the service hours extension, and possible what could result from the sales tax initiative that's going on. And they just want to see all these upcoming changes implemented before we go forward with the study. So the delay would allow Bismarck-Mandan and the community's time for further discussion and identify how the TDP study should be focused from that point. And if there's anything else Dieter would like to add to that, or any questions? We'll visit it again in January with the Policy Board.
Anybody have any questions on the update for the TDP RFP?
Kim, what does this have, or what impact does this have on your budget for 2026? Knowing that you had programmed work for funds that were only dedicated in 2025, and now you're not going to have that work happening in 2025, that means you got to do something in 2026 to adjust for that. Is that correct?
Yes and no. Thank you, Will, for the question. So the motion by the Policy Board was to delay it for 3 months. We're hoping that in 3 months, in January of 26, that we can bring the same RFP back to the Policy Board for their approval. If we can get that off of the ground and get the consultant selection underway immediately, there is such a way of kind of loading the study with the public engagement kind of on the front end and still expending those funds in a timely manner where we may not have to do a budget revision to our UPWP. It would remain to be seen what action the Policy Board actually takes in January when we bring that RFP back. If they have concerns with any of the scope of work, specifically in regards to the sales tax initiative, because that was their concern this time around. If we have to make any changes to the RFP, that would cause a further delay, and then yes, obviously we would have to take that into consideration, and we would have to propose a UPWP amendment for budget and schedule.
And follow-up, remind me, did this study push into 2027?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so any delay from not doing it in 2025 would just kind of get pushed into 2027 and use funds from later years?
Correct, yes. All right, thank you. Anything else on the TDP? Okay, thank you, Paulette. Appreciate that. Tracy has a 2026 meeting calendar for TAC and Policy Board to present. I think we've got all our dates worked out.
Okay, thank you. On the last page of your packet is the 2026 MPO calendar of meetings. The TAC meetings are held On Mondays at 10 a.m. in Bismarck from January through June, and in Mandan from July to December. And the policy board meetings are held on Tuesdays at 1:30 in Bismarck from January to June, and in Mandan from July to December, with the exception of January and February. They will both be held on Tuesdays due to holidays. January is for Martin Luther King and February is for President's Day. They will both be held on Tuesday. January will be the 20th, or February will be the 17th. TAC will be in the morning at 10, and Policy Board will be in the afternoon at 1:30. All other meetings from March through December will be held at their regular day and time. Does the board have any questions?
Not seeing or hearing any. Thank you, Tracy. Item number 15, the Government Partner Program Membership Renewal Update. The Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority Government Partner Program membership is designed to assist communities along or adjacent to new passenger rail service routes with planning activities so that they can maximize benefits and address challenges presented by new passenger rail service to an area. The BSPRA Government Partner Program membership has a term of 1 year. It begins from the time that the membership fee is received, and then it expires 12 months from that date. This membership does not automatically renew. The memorandum of agreement for the GPP membership between the MPO and the 5 paying participating jurisdictions was signed last December after approvals were received from each of the jurisdictions' governing bodies. Because the MOA follows the term of the membership and the membership does not auto-renew, jurisdictions were told at that time that they would be given the option to consider renewal again this year. The annual membership fee for 2026 remains static at $6,000, and this was included in the Bismarck-Mandan MPO's 2026 UPWP work program and budget, which was presented in detail in July as a draft and approved by Policy Board in August this summer. There were no objections to the inclusion of this $6,000 membership fee or to its jurisdictional match amounts. Now, if any jurisdiction requires approval of the 2026 membership through its governing body, this would actually be the time for the principal representative of the jurisdiction to request that approval prior to year's end. The MPO will verify which jurisdictions are participating in order to develop the MOA for 2026, and it would be our intention that we would have a signed MOA by the prior to the end of the year so that we could begin our January 1 membership right away. The principal representatives of each jurisdiction have been identified by each jurisdiction, and so I will be in communication with them soon after this meeting just to find out what the intent of each is and whether they need to take this to their governing bodies or not. So we should have a final MOA with participating amounts for this board to look at in December. But as a reminder, what we were functioning off of this year, a $6,000 membership is paid primarily by the MPO, with $1,200 being split, $720 by the city of Bismarck. Mandan pays $240, Burleigh County $180, Morton and Lincoln each paying $30. So are there any questions right now? This is pretty preliminary, but I wanted to kind of get it out there. Okay, great. This may be our last month for roadway project updates. Why don't we just start at do we still have Dan Shriak on the line?
Yeah, I'm here. We don't have any updates this time.
All done. Okay, great. Thanks, Dan. How about Riley? Anything in Mandan?
Everything's just getting kind of wrapped up for winter shutdown. I would say Memorial Highway's getting there. I don't think it's completely ready for winter shutdown, but it should be ready soon.
All right, thanks. How about Logan? What's going on with district?
Yeah, they're doing exit 161 concrete pavement is done for this year. Curb and gutter's done. Most of the striping's in. They have a little bit of crosswalk and arrows to put in for striping. They plan to switch traffic on the 20th for the new orientation for the interchange that they built. That'll be done, I think, that night. I think so. It'll be he said Memorial Highway is kind of narrowing down here. All the concrete is down. They plan for a traffic switch midweek. And then they have a little bit of concrete left on the slip ramp at 194. And then the interstates should be fully open today east of town.
Okay. Great, thank you. Gabe, do you have anything for the city of Bismarck for us?
Sure. Our Century Avenue project, reconstruction and extension east of Centennial Road, is substantially complete and open for traffic at this point in time. So we'll see some miscellaneous work next year, final landscaping and some seeding potentially. But for all intents and purposes, the project's complete.
All right, thank you. I don't know if we still have Loretta on the line. Anything for
Yes.
City of Lincoln?
City of Lincoln, any project work that we were involved in is wrapping up for the winter season. Other than that, I don't have any updates for the group.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to other business. Is there any other business that anyone would like to bring forward? Gabe?
Sure. Just a notification, we'll have a public input meeting tomorrow at our Public Works building from 6 to 8 p.m. to talk about a proposal to create a street utility that would replace street maintenance special assessments in our community. So we'll get out, talk to the public, see what sort of input they would want to provide. We will have some information on our website at bismarcknd.gov/streets. That'll include a story map that kind of has the same information that we'll have at our public meeting, as well as then an open survey for a couple of weeks after the meeting. That'll go through December, I think 6th is when we'll close that, or December 7th, that we'll try to tabulate what information we can get from the public. So I encourage you to look into it. It's not federally funded, it's just how do we fund our local street improvement type projects.
Great, thank you, Gabe. Anything else for the good of the order? Oh, well, that concludes our meeting then for November 17th, and we will adjourn. Thank you all for attending. Have a great week.